Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. I want to talk about a recent experience I had at work that I think is important to share. So I was at work, and it was a late event. I started later on in the morning, and then finished on later in the afternoon, like right around rush hour time. And there was an opportunity for an organization that we partnered with to help with a cleanup on a trail. And so me and my colleague gave our spiel. We talked about the program that we're in, that we work in. And then, of course, my colleague took the crew, the volunteers, to go out and do some cleaning on the trail. And so for me, I, I actually had to stay back because of our equipment. I didn't have any security measures in place to secure our stuff. So for the sake of that, I had to stay back, and my colleague took the lead and led the group in helping us with this day of cleanup on the trail. And when I was in this space with myself, I looked at it as an opportunity. Okay, let me connect with my team of spiritual helpers. And I'll say this, whether you believe it or not, you actually have a team of spirit guides, or you can call them guardian angels. But I simply refer to them as spiritual helpers. And so for me, I know I have a relationship with them just as much as like I have a relationship with myself. And so I think it's something it's important to build the sense of security to be okay in one's own space with myself. I'm using the I here, but feel free to internalize that for yourself. Wanted to get some context before kind of diving into it, because I think it's something essential and important. To be okay and be in your own space with yourself, you and yourself. Because reality is, once we pass on, it's just gonna be you and you. I know it's gonna be me and me. Like, no one's bonded or tied to any other individual, because reality is that we're spiritually free. Free to just be free agents of the universe, just moving through wherever our hearts desire, wherever we desire to go. So I was in my own space, using this opportunity to talk to my guidance, and I was just kind of regrouping a lot of what, at least how far I've come along in my own journey of unfoldment. Uh, and the theme of this episode is all about pleasure and fulfillment. That was just the inspiration for myself, just for this episode here. And for me, one of the things that I did in my 20s a lot. So a lot of it was like work, which took a huge chunk of my time. Even like I had to work evenings at times, or over the weekend. And then outside of that, I got into a lot of like doing a lot of social rides within a local community here in DC. And but then outside of that, when I was at home, generally I'd spend it between, well, actually, if I'm talking my 20s here, I spent a lot of it playing video games. If you've been following along this episode, I'm a very passionate gamer. I love playing video games. Like my first game that I ever played was the was Pokemon Yellow. I got it for the Game Boy Color. And so that's something that ever since then it's always been cultivated within me, the playing video games, because I have fun. I like the challenges at times. Although I have my moments when I get frustrated. Oh man. Not like the not super crazy. I might have my moments when I've gotten angry over just a video game. Again, something that's meant to just have fun, right? That's where I know sometimes, depending on the game, my competitive side can come out. And so I spent a lot of time in my 20s playing video games. And, where I'm at right now, I wouldn't take it back. Though I had to acknowledge there was a point of me that had some regret. But just the fact that I'm in a different place now than I was before, if anything, is more of a reason to be glad that it all actually did happen. Otherwise, perhaps it wouldn't have led to my own growth process to where I'm at right now at this point in time. So just to put it in that perspective. So, and when it comes to pleasure, it's funny because growing up, being raised Catholic and going to Catholic school, it was this association of pleasure, oftentimes with like, for me, it was lumped with sex and things like that, and then of course this idea of sin, or what's sinful, or what I interpret as unclean, or dirty, kind of a thing. And to me, it's it's really judgmental, and it doesn't actually see that, like, when it comes to the idea of pleasure, or what I'd like to think of it as, is like enjoyment, pure enjoyment, in my opinion. But talking about, let's say, pleasure in the context of sex, whether it's with someone or by yourself, yeah, there's definitely been a lot of, for me growing up, this idea of sinfulness, when reality, I think it's something healthy and it's okay. I think when, if we're talking about sinful, I look at it at this point in time as something that's too much to an extreme or out of balance, the overindulgence. But still, like growing up, because of this idea of sinfulness, for me, I interpret it like there's certain contexts where it can be bad, or it was very limiting and restricting, nevertheless. Because as I mentioned before, I think that there's this, because it's very judgmental. It can be very judgmental, and it led me to kind of really judge myself. You know, um, when I've engaged in various forms of pleasure, type of thing. I mean, even outside of, like, from the sexual perspective, or like the context of sex, but more so, I think what I really want to get into, that I think is just essential, is just when it comes to being able to enjoy, right? I mentioned pure enjoyment. I think that is really important, especially enjoying what it is that I'm doing right now in this moment, whatever it is, and even just taking a moment to appreciate, perhaps, if I can't find myself for some reason to enjoy what it is that I'm doing, day to day routines, playing the game. The routines is part of the game. Got to work through it, got to dance with it, got to get into this beautiful dance. Otherwise, life just becomes this monotonous, dull, what, like, dull, like, boring existence. And that's not what life's about. Life is great and fun and fulfilling and adventurous. I speak from experience, of course. And And so I think that's the bottom line. I think when it comes to pleasure, is just that. I mean, I'm not going to go again too much into talking about sex per se, but even then, that's not. It has its place, and it's not something sinful. As I said before, I think where this idea, if it's sinful, is because it's overindulgent, and I think this is where I want to start bringing in the fulfillment piece. So for me, when I was regrouping with my guides, having the conversation and talking about a lot of things, and then of course the topic of video games, playing in my 20s, and that came up, and how I spent a lot of time of my 20s playing video games. For me, I get a lot of pleasure, a lot of enjoyment from playing video games. Like, I love it so much that as far as I know right now, and I was, at this point in time, I still feel like I want to game. It's something I want to have a part of like my leisure time, which I think everybody needs to have something, leisure. Like I'm about purpose, the why, like, okay, what I want to get out of this, goal setting and stuff like that. But it doesn't. I'm learning and recognize that there's nothing wrong with just doing some leisure stuff for the sake of doing it, for the sake of just enjoying, right? Like the importance of leisure is the importance of having balance, right? To be so, for example, focused on work all the time, or spending so much time like, with friends and stuff like that. It has to be like a balance when it comes to my personal, that's me and myself, business, me and my work, which is like whether it's a day job or entrepreneur work, any that kind of stuff, and then me and my social, which is me and like my spirit guides, and me and other people and physical bodies. So like it's essential to have a balance of all three areas of life. These are like the three major vibrations, aspects of our lives that affects us that we operate in. Again, personal, business, social. And for me, I I enjoy video games so much. I took so much pleasure, and it was one of those things that I overindulged in. That it at that point, it just I'm allocating most of my time into things that, yeah, I'm enjoying it right now, but I'm keeping myself from actually having other experiences that can give me a greater sense of fulfillment. It's just like I almost want to use an example, but I don't think it's necessarily the best example I can use. It's almost like, indulging in sweets. Like they're great to enjoy, but then it's like at the price of nutrition. That so like the making sure I have a variety of of other foods, fruits, vegetables, things like that into my diet that I'm taking in. So it's like that. So kind of tying into the fulfillment piece, I want to make sure that the nutrition, my soul nutrition, that I'm like I'm diversifying it, and it's not just into the, again, the sweets, the spiritual sweets, the what I would consider something that is healthy to do in leisure time. So it's like all with the sense of balance that must be had in all this. And for me, I definitely have, even now, like it's part of like what I'm going through right now is really a little bit of a, working through the challenge of, okay, I love playing video games so much, but it's like I have to really dial it down and spend less time and focus on other projects that I know deep down I need to do. And this is where I want to tie in purpose, because I know for me, part of my purpose is to share with people spiritually. I'm very talkative. I love to express and just share with people. I mean, it's something that was for me growing up. I've always been like that until I got conditioned by my parents and those around me to be quiet, to not speak much, to second guess myself, to doubt myself. All these programs started affecting me down to my subconscious, down to, that far down deeply. And that's why I'm at this place where, especially being at the age of 33, where I've been evaluating my time here and just recognizing, like, hey, I have finite time here. I can't be messing around here. At some point, I was just, sitting there with myself, like, okay, I enjoy video games so much, and oftentimes too much, and I can't let this pleasure go haywire. Where again, this prevents me from really doing what I've come to do, and sharing with people spiritually to empower others to live a life of purpose, feeling empowered, approach and show up in their lives differently from a higher perspective, understanding that there's a bigger picture to everything. And learning to just look past the facade, what we may see with our eyes or hear with our ears, how they can deceive at times, and that it's not always what it seems. There is a bigger picture, especially than what we see at the news. That's not the big picture. It's a reality of what we see, what's going on in the world, but it's not the reality of the big picture. There's a very big difference there, my friend. There's a very big difference. And so let's orient ourselves here and reconnect with the big picture here. So one of the spiritual keys, what I consider principles for myself, is that, and I'm going to use the I here, the I form. I came here to learn and grow. I understand intellectually. I understand a lot. I mean, and even just having a plan from some experience that I've had in my, what I put together, reflecting, is that we're all here in this school to do something. We all chose to do something, and this, and when I say that, it's like we all came here to show up and to be involved in life's situations and the opportunities for our own spiritual evolution. Right? We all That's by default. We all came here for. So remember when I said that there's a bigger picture to all this? Well, I'm tying in back the sense of purpose. So we came here to work on certain things, and this is where our spirit guides come into play because they have strengths in the areas where we're trying to develop and strengthen within ourselves. And of course, we're always going to experience life situation in such a way that to help us in those endeavors, to get our needs met. And that's a very important thing to also bring up as well too, is that you and I, we all have wants and needs. And so talking about pleasure, the likes, the loves, and all this, that's the wants, and that's important because that really goes to, because you and I as a soul, we move by desire. Like that's the really the thing that helps us to, the fuel behind why we do what we do, our actions. There's desire, there's concern, there's true concern, I'll say, behind it. And when it comes to fulfillment, that's a need. That is a spiritual need that each of us have. And it's important because if we don't choose fulfillment, well, there's the lack of fulfillment, the emptiness, the feeling emotional, feeling this like moodiness, feeling all this type, feeling belligerent, angry. This is where there's a saying, hurt people, because they're not experiencing a sense of fulfillment with themselves. So what happens in that area is that people want to tend to, there's this there's this saying, misery loves company. So they'll do whatever it takes to just bring other people down with them because of the emptiness they feel inside. This even attempt to try to like fill the emptiness with things that don't really do much, or just this disillusion, or like, oh, let me hurt people to try to fill the void, but that's only going to create a deeper void. And it's important to just, this is where it's important that to come back to the self. And this is why I believe that we have a relationship with ourselves. And this is why I always mention the self, the self, the self, because that's where it starts and ends, in my opinion. Our relationship with ourselves trickles into our relationship with other people, our relationships with how we show up with the world. It starts there. That's fundamental. Yeah, that doesn't get any more simpler than that. And so when it comes to the pleasure and the fulfillment piece, I know I can experience both. And it's like a way of saying, like, another way of saying that is that I want what I need spiritually. And I would say more power to the individual who wants what they need. Because what I find within myself and what I observe in the world around me is that our wants and needs don't align. They go completely different directions, and it creates this inner resistance, this grinding of the gears where it's not smooth, and it just creates turmoil. It creates this ease. It throws our energy off out of balance. There isn't congruence. And so in that state, that's where suffering occurs. So I have to remind myself, and maybe because of the fact that I'm at this stage of my life, again, being 33 here, for me, what I'm just thinking about is oftentimes I tend to be very critical of myself, whereas like I underestimate how well I'm actually doing. And so, and and this is why I mentioned before, I say it again, that I'm not regretting spending most of my 20s playing video games. I know I could have done other stuff, but really I was working at a different phase of my life, because it wasn't just that. I mean, because I was doing a lot of other spiritual things, and one of the major things that I did in my 20s was that search spiritually, which was the part that I'm glad I did what I did. Because if I hadn't and just made it more like, and would have been just the other stuff that I did, then there probably would have been a problem. I would have been in a much different place, in a much lower place, to be honest. But I recognize, okay, there's maybe one thing that wasn't, I could look back that I would do differently. Sure, yeah, but at least I recognize also the wins that I those small wins that led to those important milestones and those points of greater fulfillment along the way. So definitely it's an important moment for me to recognize when I'm looking back on the past, and even when you know, something to think about. It's just like always have that practice of like, okay, what are the things that are actually going well? To even just ask that question, because I don't know about you, I've definitely developed a habit of just focusing on the negative. It almost is like this human nature, this tendency to just like, it's just funny how like you can receive 10 like very positive compliments from 9 people and one negative comment from one person, right? Like let's say you receive feedback from 10 people, 9 of them are positive and one of them is negative. And it's amazing how we'd focus more on that negative comment that overrides all the other positive compliments. Can you relate with that? Me talking about it is just hilarious, but when it comes to practice, it's it really does play itself out like that for me. Like I just focus on the negative, negative, negative. Oh my god, like why is this is that? Part of my growth process and my challenges and what I'm working through. But something to share so that if you can relate with this, that you're not alone there. It happens. And not just that. It's okay. Not doesn't make you or me any less worthy. It's part of the process of being in the school, part of the life lessons. Not to say applies to everybody, of course. Like I said, if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Is what it is. But I have to remind myself, hey, I'm having these experiences. I'm in this school because I can beat myself up. I could spend some time doing that, but now I'm learning better. So then I'm like bringing myself back to like, now I'm at that stage in my life where I'm having more concern about how I spend my time, because it's the most precious commodity that you can't ever get back. You're not going to get refunded time. So it becomes a question of what do I want to fill my time with? And that's something that's been coming up for me. It's like I feel like I don't have the time to do everything. It's like when it comes to the areas of wants, man, I want to do so many things, but it's like I'm not going to have time to do all the wants, right? And that's why it's important to really bring in my needs, because when I look at, okay, well, I want to do all these things, and then but if I ask myself, well, what is it that I need to do? Where I notice a laundry list of wants, the needs filters all of that, and it really boils down to like maybe like a handful of stuff that I need to do. Of course, there's gonna be like baby steps that'll have to come about, but that's you have to remember that our guides, our spiritual helpers, are there to help us with the how and how things, in terms of like the steps to take. When it comes to our part, is making sure we take the step, not make the steps, not worry about, okay, I have to do this, with the intellectual mind it's trying to like take control and all this, when it's like, when really the intellect needs to let go, relax, feel into the intuitive part. What do I feel guided to do? What do I feel the inspiration from? And take action on that. Take that step when it comes up. This is the dance when it comes to working with my intuition as a practice, as a way of life. So when you feel guided towards something, and this comes from developing and working on your intuitive gifts here, you could say by design, we're guided towards getting our needs met. Where we run into issues is where we've been programmed intellectually. Our first 7 years, what family, friends, other people, like whoever was present with us in our first 7 years growing up, in our formative years, have had an influence on us. And so that gets in the way of what we're naturally good at, of moving towards that which fulfills us. And one of the reasons why we're here at this school is to be able to balance, bring our intellectual nature and our feeling nature into harmony, right? Because our intellectual nature wants to analyze, dissect, understand why things are the way they are, which is great. It's a tool. It makes for a good servant, but a horrible master. The feeling part is the drive, the incentive, right? To get up and go, right? It's like, think about the gas on the car. You press the gas pedal to help you go forward, and the intellectual part is like the steering wheel, just to simply guide and organize, to help with the sense of like the to take that step, to be in this vehicle, right? So it's about harmony of those two. So, and when I'm working in harmony, in a balanced way, then I'm experiencing life where I'm getting my needs met, and then I'm enjoying it all. I'm indulging with balance, of course. I think when I'm factoring in my spiritual needs, when I'm never gonna find myself in overindulgence, but rather just enjoying. That's really, like I said, enjoying is really the operative word that I want to emphasize above all this when I'm talking about pleasure. Just do enjoy. Because how many of us don't enjoy what we're doing? And if we're not enjoying what we're doing, how many of us do anything about it? Say, like, for example, you find yourself in a job and it's just like you're doing it because you feel like you have to, so to make ends meet, to try to survive, right? The intellectual coping mechanisms. But we can't neglect our spiritual part, our soul part that wants fulfillment. And if we neglect that, then that's going to invite dis-ease, where a lot of things are going to manifest. And just all it's going to do is just create suffering, and that's not what we're here for. Planet Earth is a system that's meant for everyone to thrive in. But because of the patterns from a collective perspective, but even from a personal perspective within ourselves, it gets in the way. But all this to say, with the challenges that I know I face within myself and the challenges I'm sure you recognize within yourself, it's important that at the end of the day, there's that big picture. It's all there for you. This isn't to say, oh man, if only this, and to get into, because I can get into blaming and all this, but when I do that, who is that helping? It's not helping me. If it's not helping myself, it's not going to help anybody else. So then what am I going to do about it? This is where I need to walk my walk. This is like walking my walk, doing that for myself because I have that relationship with myself, and then I'll show up for others as well too. And it's like working with my wants and needs, and then also the part of the art of living when engaging with people. How can I help work and support others in fulfilling their wants and needs as well? But it's important to start that from the self first, because it's with the practice, then it's like, okay, you have experience so that you can help other people. And if you've done that work, you are a valuable, asset to the world, and all the more reason that you ought to share with people. Don't hold back, please. The world needs your wisdom and what you've put together. Don't second guess or don't give in to the imposter syndrome or all this crap that I know affects me. That's part of why I share it, because it affects me. But I know to listen to my heart and to practice and to commit to it. Because I know there'll be times when I go astray, but as long as I stay committed and come back and I never give up, that's the most important thing ever. To believe in myself, to believe in yourself, that that right there can really, no matter what happens in life, if you believe in yourself and you stay with it, you stay committed, and you bounce back from, let's say, the punches or whatever, or if you just got sidetracked and you get back on your lane, you'll be fine. I know I'll be fine. And at the end of the day, we're all going to be fine. Again, the bigger picture here, bigger picture. You and I are souls, eternal spirits, having a temporary human experience. And this is just a temporary period of time that we're all just going through. But we're all going to go back home at some point. All I just This is where my mind. This is where I've been at this point in my life. I'm hoping that I'm saying a lot, and a lot of it is intellectual understanding, but a lot of it also is coming from a place of just embodying, which for me has gone through my own experiences, my growth process. And if you're kind of just like, okay, I kind of get you, but not really, just know that it's a growth process. This is part of why this is the school, is learning to embody what we've put together, our intellectual understandings, right? This is what I'm talking about, aligning my intellect and my feeling part. And that's when I'm embodying through experience. That's when I'm bringing that alignment together, when I'm really working towards greater harmony with myself. And when I move in balance, that has a healing impact on the world. Tremendous healing impact to those around me, whoever I engage with, I interact with, no matter where they are in their lives. You'd be amazed at the power of planting a seed of inspiration, of inner leadership, what that can do for another individual. And so, having said all that, that's why I'm always going to be a big believer in doing the inner work. Inner, INNER, inner work is essential and should not be disregarded, should not be ignored, because that is from that place that we can be of super service and help ourselves from within the community, from a societal perspective, and they can also trickle into the whole world. It's just that simple. But again, practice and the reality and what's going on, that's why we're having the issues and the challenges, because of just the practice. The reality of practice, when we're in that vibration of practice. We're all in this school for it. So no matter what's going on, whatever you're going through, remember that big picture. You're here to learn and grow as a soul. And everybody else as well. Right? And I'll say this too, because I feel the need to say it. And just because you're good at something doesn't make you perfect. Experts, can make mistakes too. And that's okay. That I share that to say that it's okay. No big deal. Because when I start making big deals, then I start creating troubles for myself. And when I do that, I take myself off course again. Because that's my version of it. I start making troubles out of little things, out of things that have nothing to do with me. I realize I'm kind of getting a little bit sidetracked here, but I wanted to come back to the big theme here of pleasure and fulfillment, wants and needs. So for me, being a leader for myself is recognizing what is it that I want and need. What is it that I need? And that requires looking back on my experiences where I felt fulfillment. And then, of course, like I said, the pleasure is not, it's not bad. Like the wants, having wants, the desires is good, because we have our true heart's desires. I think when we don't recognize what we genuinely want and need, that's when we can get into the overindulgence that can occur, because then it starts to become an escape. Perhaps because we may not want to face what we need to face within ourselves. But here's the thing, you're going to have to face yourself at some point. So say you're in a disagreement and think, no, it's about selflessness and I have to focus on the people and this. Yes, being of service to people is a big piece, but we can't leave ourselves out because we have to face ourselves, you know? And whatever it is that we're doing, like, even like, I'm sure perhaps you may relate with this or not. Like, I get pleasure in helping people, and that's valid. That's good. But the fact that I'm extracting pleasure from helping somebody, that's fulfilling my own need, if that makes sense. I'm doing for myself as well too, not just for the person. Like, I can't be completely selfless because then that's leaving myself out, and I'm not gonna feel that fulfillment, and that's necessary. I need to operate from that sense of a full cup, i.e., feeling fulfilled, so that I can help pour and give of myself to other people. So all this, as I'm talking about all this from since the start of the episode, it goes back to just the relationship with the self. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll keep saying it. I'll take that to the grave. Honestly, I'll take that to the grave because it's the most fundamental thing that I've come to understand when it comes to relationship dynamics. And remembering, I have one important, essential one with myself. And if you really want to be in that better place, honestly, like, work on that relationship with yourself. Not sure where to start on that. If not sure what to do when it comes to your relationship with yourself, here's a suggested step. Look at the resources I have in the show notes and go there. Listen to what teachers are saying. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Trust your own filtering system. Trust your own intuition. Because remember, you have your a say in what you want to need. I can't say what you want to need. I can only speak for myself. That's your responsibility for what you want to need. To identify that is your responsibility. And that applies for each and every single individual. And why it's important to sit down with yourself to go through what do you want out of life? What do you want to experience more of? What do you notice that you need for your own fulfillment? Where are moments that you have felt some sense of fulfillment? Because it's from those experiences, it's knowing that, okay, I need more of that. What is it? What's the common ingredient? What's the theme? What's the essence of those experiences you've had where you felt fulfillment? And when you look at that when you kind of look at it from that angle, then you can start to, like, play around with, okay, what kind of experiences that contains those ingredients from those experiences I've had where I felt fulfilled that I can bring more of into my future. And again, it's important to just get into, like, the essence of it, not get too much to the details, like, oh, I need to do this, that. It can be sometimes it may be that way. But I say that because your guidance, your spiritual helpers have a big picture, have a bird's eye view, and they can guide you to experiences that you've never had before, and yet can give you this sense of fulfillment. So remember, my friend, you're on a team. You're on an important part of a team of spirit. If you're listening to this, and know that you're not there to just figure it out all by yourself. We have other people in physical bodies, and we have our team of spiritual helpers that are guiding us. We have our intuitive part, all those things to help us. So it's not just the intellect. Don't I would be very cautious about the intellect and trying to relate with life with just from that part, because we have two natures. But if you continue to try to pivot off just the intellect, to me that goes down the path of just being lost. If I don't include my feeling nature, my intuitive part, I'm gonna forever just be lost. I'm just gonna feel that dull, dreary, just the lack of joy in being here and living life. And I don't think that's what life's all about. I don't think that's the all that life has to offer us. In fact, there's more of the great things in life because there's that choice. We're faced with it. We have to experience it. There's nothing you can do about it. You chose it. Now the question becomes, what are you going to go after? The great things in life or the crappy things? What are your concepts? What are your belief systems? Because those factor in as well too. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way to kind of end this episode because I've kind of been all over. But again, coming back to like pleasure and fulfillment piece, like it's definitely important that I don't allow the pleasure piece to get in the way of my own fulfillment, but to channel it so that let me take pleasure and actually into the fulfillment. Or what I said before, I want let I want what I need spiritually. I want what I need. And when you can do that, I'll say it again, that puts you in a very powerful place. Truly. So wherever you're at, just know that wherever you're at in your life, know that wherever you're going through, it's all just a means at the end of the day. And all this is a process. So I share this because I'm not perfect in all this. I'm still working on this. And I know there's going to be areas where I can continue to unfold and work on this, the balancing my wants and needs, the pleasure and fulfillment, lining it up so it's all in balance and not into the extreme. I'm talking to you, pleasure, not so that doesn't take away from that fulfillment piece. There's always going to be opportunities. And then that's it. And if there's anything I want to end this episode on, is that again, it's just the big picture here. So that we don't get caught up in all the stuff because at the end of the day, when it comes to living spiritually, I come to understand it's about living, it's about practicality. It is what I'm doing working for me or is it working against me? I want to be in that position where whatever it is, be it my belief system, my habits, all the things, are they working for me? And to be able to zero in on the things that are working on me and then the ones that aren't, releasing those and replacing them with something more constructive, more practical. To me, that's a huge part of that living spiritually as well, living in balance. And remember that all this is there for you, all this is just a means, and that it's okay. No matter what happens, it's okay. If you're listening to this episode, like I said, if you want to take better steps for yourself, my suggestion, feel free to take or to leave, is just check out the resources I have because those are the practices, the resources I've tapped into to help me on that path where I'm more in that balance between my wants and needs and they work harmoniously, they work in alignment. So it's okay. It's all here. We're all in this beautiful school, learning and growing, baby. We're all doing the best we know how, right? And that's all I could ever ask for any individual is just do the best that you know how. And if you make mistakes or you mess up, get back up and come back. Come back home. Come back to your lane. Come back. Stay on track. It's just that simple. No need to make a big deal out of it. It's okay. Just come back. That's the most important thing. Just come back home within yourself to your mission, what you came here to do. That only you can do just as much as what I came here to do is only what I can do. And that applies to everybody here. Embrace your uniqueness, embrace your process, have patience, and I'll mention just the word pure enjoyment. Enjoy the process. There's a saying, I will do it, I will have fun doing it, and I will learn from it. And I will also add the growth part. And so this has been another episode of Spiritually Engineered. I'm your host, Alvin Cepeda, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.